Morning. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Joe Neeson, and I am proud to say I am a river warrior. We are very fortunate today to have several very wise people that are going to talk to us about ways that we can improve the life of this planet by saving the water. I want y'all to give me your best attention and listen real close, because before you are going to have the finest array of scientists, great thinkers, hydrologists, and they're going to give you the information you need to make informed decisions so we can get out there and vote. At this time, I would like to turn this over to your MC and to your Indian River Keeper, Mr. Marty Baum.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. 1 year ago today, we didn't know each other's names. And today, we find ourselves here as family, all working towards a common goal. We've made a difference. You perhaps have not seen that, but myself and others working on the inside of these issues, we see a dramatic change in the way that water issues are being addressed in the state of Florida. No one expected as many people to show up last year as happened, and we're hoping that this crowd grows today. But in the meantime, we've made a difference, a big difference. You have made the difference. Your activity, your willingness to become educated and aware and share that and involve other people, it has changed the whole game. For the first time ever in my life, I see a light at the end of our tunnel, and it's not a train. I really feel that we have begun something here that cannot be stopped. And this is what it is, a beginning for us. We're looking for solutions. Today we're going to talk about sending clean water south. Now there's lots of things that would help that. There's many components that could be added to this. Water farming and holding water north of the lake and all these other wonderful things that will add to the solution. But the only solution for us is to find a way to clean the water and send it south. So what I would like from you today is to consider that. We're going to have an awful lot of candidates and elected officials here today. You will have the opportunity to speak to them one-on-one. Probably the first question you should ask them is, have you signed the Citizens Clean Water Declaration? If they have not, suggest that they do. If they have, tell them that you personally will hold them accountable for that signature, that pledge to protect our clean water. This is about our future. The whole state is collapsing, the whole nation. The city of Toledo can't drink their water this morning because Lake Erie is so poisoned that their water supply has gone south, and they can't boil it to fix it. And this is happening all over. Our elected officials over the last 15 or 20 years have allowed things to get completely out of control.
Yes, they have.
They have not properly represented us. In this last year, there has been some big change. For the first time ever, our elected officials, instead of going to Washington and Tallahassee and then coming back and telling us, hey, we got this many dollars for you, but this is what we did. This year it changed. We were having amendments tacked onto bills up there, and 5 minutes later, 10,000 people were reading it, and they had the opportunity to get on the phone and get on the Twitter and get on their emails and make a change. Never before have our elected state officials been held accountable as they did it, that their mouth does not match their vote. And that's what this is all about. We need to be represented. There are an awful lot of very powerful entities that do not want to have to be held responsible for their pollution. Under the Clean Water Act, the Federal Clean Water Act, polluters must keep their water in situ, on their own land, and they cannot let it leave until it's clean.
No more back pumping.
No back pumping, all these things. We're going to address some of that today. So I'd like to go ahead and sort of get moving here. Before I go, I'd like to mention that you'll hear that the federal standards for sending water south are enormously tight. That there's no possible way that we can meet these standards that have been actually in place for 20 years now. That's a lie. We are sending, on average, more than 1 million acre-feet a year into the Florida Everglades at 9 parts per billion, which is underneath the federal limit of 10. So when they start telling us that it's impossible, we cannot possibly clean this water good enough to get it into the Everglades, they're lying to you.
No more lies.
We need to hold them accountable for truth and for honest and decent representation. And I really believe that the change has begun. So take advantage. You're going to see all these elected officials, and you're going to see their opposition, their candidates, the people running against them, out here in the audience today. Speak to them one-on-one. Please be polite. This is a social event. This is not some place to drag them around and insult them or anything like that. Treat them with the respect that they have earned by winning the vote. Please. This is important. If we get all over them, we're not going to get anything but just anger back. If we come to them and we're reasonable, we ask questions and we tell them what we want, which is to send clean water south, I think that they'll listen to us. We have a wonderful opportunity today. So please, please, thank you very much for having taken the time to come here. Pay attention, learn, ask questions, and please stay involved. Okay, give me 1 minute. We'll get us some speakers up here.
Marty.
Our first speaker is going to be Joe Gilio. Now, you'll hear lots of things. Plan 6 is the fix. It's our chant. There really is a Plan 6. It was put forth in 1955, and Option 2 was the one that was approved but never implemented. So what Plan 6 is the fix really is, it's a concept of sending clean water south. And Joe has worked on this and fine-tuned it because there is no formal engineered plan for this. Joe's worked on this, and he has an example that he's convinced would work, and I think we all need to look at it. So please welcome Joe Gilio.
Yay!
Thanks, Marty. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The magic word this morning is south. We're all here to bring the water south. Okay, man. Plan 6 is a concept. I have taken Plan 6, as Marty indicated, and put a little science and engineering on it to be able to make it a functional Plan 6. So I call it Plan 6X for expanded. What are the elements of it? I'm not trying to, there's no test on this, even though I used to be a teacher. First, you need to develop money. And I think the way to go on that is to develop a $7 billion state bond program. It can be done. I'm not going to get into details. 2, the Corps of Engineers has to complete the filling in of the Kissimmee River from a straight line into the meander that it used to be to keep the water coming into Lake Okeechobee cleaner than it has been for years. 3rd, take some muck out of Lake Okeechobee. I have said this 30 years ago because the muck represents the major source of total phosphorus and total nitrogen in the Lake Okeechobee water. And it's because the water starts off so dirty, what could come south, but it's so dirty, we have to get that cleaned. Take the muck out, and then a lot of the plants, the native and the exotic, like the hydrilla, will grow. And by doing that, we end up using nature to clean up Lake Okeechobee from around 100 part per billion total phosphorus to about 60. It's a major effort. Engineering studies have already been done on how to do it. It has not been done. Secondly, take some of the money of that $7 billion. There was a $1.7 billion offered by Governor Christ 6 years ago, whatever now, for U.S. Sugar to sell to the state of Florida 170,000 acres, all of its sugar holdings in the EAA. The money was never put on the table. So with $2 billion and the offer is still there at market value, would not U.S. Sugar take that offer if we put the money on the table and left it on the table? Secondly, as part of that, then make a business offer to Florida Crystals. Here's the money, additional money, for you to sell the 35 acres, 35,000 acres. The details are not important. The point is that once this is done, the 55,000 acres plug just south of Lake Okeechobee that Plan 6 is talking about is accomplished. Then what do? Then you plant from sugar to wetlands. And the idea that I have is you build a 7-mile-long weir from Miami into the North New River, which happens to be just next to and north of the 55,000 acres of Plan 6. That spillway or gated weir the gated weir would be part of the rehardening by the Corps of Engineers so that there is still a good, strong security for the people who live along the lake. Yet, when you open that up, 7 miles long spillway, when it's safe, the discharge for the lost summer of last year would never have occurred. And a 100-year storm could be accommodated in that particular period. That's a hurricane. So, you buy the land, make the weir, let the water spill, and when the water spills, which direction is it going to go to? South. Now, the next thing is you continue the Herbert Hoover Dike by the Corps of Engineers, not we, Corps of Engineers continues Herbert Hoover Dike because we must protect the people, and that weir becomes part of the safety feature for it. You can increase the size of that 55,000 acres by the state of Florida already owning Holy Land and Rottenberger Land. You add that in, that brings the whole thing to 110,000 acres. That means that we can bring more water, which way? South. And the water will be cleaned because remember, Lake Okeechobee has already been cleaned because of removing the muck. Cleaner water going across this spillway into this 110,000 acres of restored Everglades wetland brings the water cleaner. Then it can go into the water catchment areas that are already relatively clean, about 15 parts per billion, so that all that water, all of it goes which way?
South. Where it goes? Send it south. Send it.
Okay. The last step is this. If a lot of water, hopefully all Lake Okeechobee water, goes south, I used it, then we need a water polishing system at Tamiami Trail to clean up anything that's a little too high. So we'll always have a continuous flow of some water from Lake Okeechobee, hopefully a lot of it, going into the Everglades National Park and Florida Bay. Plan 6 expanded to Plan 6X. Thank you.
Yeah.
You heard Joe talking about Lake Okeechobee. There's 190,000 tons of lead and phosphorus in the sediment of Okeechobee Lake. Every time the wind blows, it comes back up into the water column, and it's just too dirty to send south as it is. Now, one of the big victories that we've had this last year is that back pumping into the lake has finally been officially declared legal enough times to where maybe this time it will stick. And the man that in Florida that is mostly responsible for that effort, and for a lot of others, is our friend David Guest. David works for Earth Justice and has for more than 30 years been defending us and our water and our futures and our safety. So please give a good welcome to David Guest.
Good morning. What's happening here is we are not complying with the Clean Water Act. The Clean Water Act stands for one single principle. It's personal responsibility. If you have a house and a backyard, you can't take your garbage and throw it over the fence onto the next door neighbor's property. And that's exactly what they're doing when they dump their pollution into our water. Personal responsibility. And our government is aiding and abetting those violations.
Yep. Yeah.
Where the pollution comes from, in large part in Lake Okeechobee, is intensive factory cattle operations in the watershed. That they are polluting at something like 40 to 100 times the legal limits. 40 to 100 times. Anybody else would get arrested for that. But why it happens is because our government doesn't enforce the law. And it's because our politicians don't make them do it. They know how to do it. They actually operate canals, little ones and big ones, all over the watershed, and they convey the dirty water from those farms down into Lake Okeechobee. That's what's happening. They need to stop using those canals unless the water is clean. Second, the Water Management District needs to give up on the legal war to authorize them to back pump. We won it in court. We won it twice. And they're appealing it again. They'll probably take it to the Supreme Court. The Water Management District needs to comply with the Clean Water Act too. And third, what they need to do is stop operating Lake Okeechobee as a reservoir for water supply for Big Sugar. And they stop. And that's what the core of the problem is that the Lake Okeechobee water used to go south, and it used to be clean. And now what they do is they use it for water supply in the dry season to drop it down, and they use it as their private sewer in the summer to back pump into the lake. That's why it's so contaminated. And that's Water Management District. They're owned by agriculture, they're owned by the government, and they need to stop. So what we need to do is we need to comply with the Clean Water Act, hold people accountable, run the Clean Water South, and you folks are the ones that can make the politicians accountable. The answer is no. You've got to say no. It's time to comply with the Clean Water Act. Thank you.
That's some good stuff right there. Our next speaker is living in the line of fire. Mr. Houston Cypress is a member of the Otter Clan of the Miccosukee tribe. He's also involved in Love the Everglades movement, which just had a rally last Saturday down in the Everglades that was very, very successful. An awful lot of people got together and had the opportunity to share ideas and to find common needs and common solutions. And the Miccosukee tribe has some very, very serious concerns about how this is all being done. They're afraid that the cart is going to be put in front of the horses and they're going to end up getting dirty water into the Everglades itself. And of course, they're being poisoned right now through the L-28 Interceptor Canal. That is just outrageous that the state of Florida is allowing this to happen and isn't making it stop. So with that, please welcome Mr. Houston Cypress of the Otter Clan.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can I take y'all's picture?
Yeah.
I want to show my grandma all the cool, amazing people that are dedicated to clean water and restoring the Everglades and building friendships and alliances with all the communities. So thank you. So again, I want to thank the Rivers Coalition, the River Warriors, and most importantly, I want to thank all the volunteers here. Let's give them a hand. I want to thank y'all for the invitation to speak with y'all today, to communicate with y'all, to have dialogue with y'all, because it's a really big honor to do so. I'm also excited to be able to connect with all of you, even under these dire circumstances. The matters that bring us here is that I found it necessary to participate in these efforts to restore the Everglades because it's where my home and my heart resides. It's where my clan and my community, the Miccosukee tribe, resides. So in my lifetime, I've seen many destructive changes to our lands, such as the disintegration of the tree islands out there, those hammocks, where our villages are, where the animals live, where we have our gardens. I've seen the disappearance of the game animals, the increase of the pollution in our waters, and the erosion of these Everglades. Because our culture is so tied to the land, our ceremonies, our medicines, and many other spiritual practices, we are witnessing the gradual disappearance of our culture. In essence, we are losing our roots because of the degradation of the Everglades waters. But we know that there is hope. We can certainly steer things in the right direction, but it's going to take incredible coordination and resolve to manifest our dreams and our goals. Love the Everglades movement is also a spiritual movement, and this is where our spirituality comes in. Personally, I don't believe that spirituality is something that is superstitious or hollow. It's not self-promoting, it's not self-serving, and these are not cliches that we're talking about here. This is about wisdom, insight, strength, which all of you all have here today. Yes, we are talking about the long term, so this is also about patience, trust, and compassion. Even in the face of great uncertainty, even in the face of potential doom, these are the qualities that we need. So you look at history, we've had many great sages that have explored the struggles of the human condition in such a mysterious universe. Our spiritual leaders throughout time have shown us by peering deeply into our very being and our place in this universe that there is much to learn for the sake of our global as well as our local ecosystems right here, right now. So with Love the Everglades, the movement here, love is central to our cause because we do not want to be ruled by fear or anger. In fact, we cannot afford to be mindlessly distracted given what's at stake and the amount of time that we have to make things right. So we know that anger and fear, especially in a crisis situation like this, it can galvanize some people, but it can also blind us, it can also divide us, and perpetuate the delusion that we are factions bent on defeating one another. And these are what undermine our important efforts. In getting to know some of you, I've heard from you about other groups involved in this issue, and sometimes these comments have been disparaging. We're supposed to be the solution to this problem. Otherwise, our divisions end up being the poison in the water. As each and every one of you know, we do not have the luxury to bicker, but we can overcome this. In fact, we must overcome this. As someone with an outside perspective, this entrenched rift is a little off-putting, but it's also all too familiar. I sympathize with you even as I am critical because our tribe has been witness to this entrenched bickering, and what this does is it slows down Everglades restoration efforts to a glacial pace. So how are we going to overcome this bickering, this factionalism? Well, love and respect is a good place to start. We have youngsters here. We have a lot of young people here. We have the river kids here. And let's give them a hand.
Yeah.
So because of these youngsters here, we got to show them a good example. Let's show them how to have a civil and civilized dialogue with one another. Let's also continue to have forums like this for discussion so that we can increase understanding of our concerns, our priorities, and our proposals for action. Let's ask for help from our friends such as you here. And let's not be afraid to disagree. Let's welcome disagreements and critique as an opportunity to learn where our proposals can be strengthened and improved. Now let me offer an example of constructive critique within a context of civilized discussion. We're talking about Plan 6 and the Southern Flowway. This is a very important proposal, but it's also got definite room for improvement. We're talking about the Holy Lands. This is an area that's designated as OFW, Outstanding Federal Waters. From what I've read on Plan 6, and from what I'm hearing today, there is still not enough discussion or information about this important area, the Holy Lands. This area has very stringent regulations, and what Plan 6 would be doing is bringing more water at a reduced quality than is currently allowed and protected for in this area. So the question that Plan 6 must answer to move forward and with broader support is, how do you propose to degrade these outstanding federal waters with water from Lake Okeechobee? That's the question that we have to answer and articulate so that we can all get behind it. Now, I also have a request from y'all. I need your help with something. Marty Baum, our Indian River keeper, was just talking about L28 Interceptor Canal. It's a serious problem, and I need your help with that. We have all been disappointed about the failure of the Central Everglades planning project to move forward. That was a big disappointment. But it's still, even if it did go through, it did not do enough, because we're talking about this L28 Interceptor Canal. The SEP project was supposed to bring new waters into the system, but it didn't address the 40% of waters still coming in from the L28 Interceptor Canal. And the Miccosukee tribe and the people that live there are analyzing the waters coming out of this canal on a regular basis, exceeding 100 parts per billion of water, and more than that sometimes. And this is an ongoing problem which needs your help. So I'm asking for your help to raise awareness on this issue and to push for action to solve this problem of the L28 Interceptor Canal. That's my request for you today.
Yeah.
And as for the factionalism within these communities, well, the movement Love the Everglades is going to work from a place of love and respect with each and every one of you. We're not going to take sides, but we're going to continue to express our love and respect for these waters. We're going to pray for the purity of these waters flowing from the Kissimmee River Valley through Lake Okeechobee, over the River of Grass, and out beyond Florida Bay. We're going to pray that compassion flourishes in the hearts and minds of the decision makers, as well as the stakeholders of Everglades restoration. And we're going to pray that the community that's concerned with Everglades matters continues to grow, because the Everglades matters. So we will stand with you in prayer for the integrity and vitality of the circle of life. These are the challenges that we are called to meet with grace and diplomacy, and we will stand with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Next is someone who most of us know. This woman has been active in water issues and in quality of life issues for, 30, 40, 50 years now. And there's not hardly anyone in the whole world that I hold in higher regard. Please welcome Maggie Hergela.
I am so proud of all of you for being here. You are America. This is what democracy is about. Look, we're not throwing rocks. Look, we're not surrounded by tear gas. This is America. And this is America saying we're going to make something different happen. 2 days ago, about this time, I was standing at 14,264 feet on the top of Mount Evans, looking over the grandeur of the Rocky Mountains. Well, our river's just as grand, and it means just as much, and it means more to us. I will tell you that I am a child of Florida, and I am glad to be home where the water is warm and it doesn't snow on you in the middle of the day in July. Your efforts to protect this river are making a difference. I want you to know that. Is the river saved? No. Is it going to be saved anytime soon? No. It's going to be a long time. And you will have to keep at it. And it will never be easy. You remember that guy in mythology who kept rolling the rock up the mountain and it rolled down on his head? Well, it's going to keep rolling down on your head. Every time they open the locks, you're going to feel like you lost it again. When that happens, remember the river. It's still there. The grass grew back. The seagrass grew back in my front yard this winter after it got killed last summer. As long as the river holds out, you're going to hold out. And when we finally move clean water south, you will get to celebrate. Thank you.
Clean it up. Send it south.
Next is a man who almost all of us know. Certainly, almost everyone here has learned from him. I don't think that there's anyone that has taught more of us and more of our children about how important the Indian River Lagoon is, the biology, how fascinating the seagrasses are, how important they are to the ecosystem. Please welcome Mark Perry.
Whew. All right, it's great to see everybody here today. You know, I grew up in the area. I was 5 years old playing down by the river. And fortunately, my parents didn't have to come down and haul me out and say there's toxic algae in there. I grew up in this area because it was nice and we had fish everywhere. We were fishing. But there were pioneers before my time, like Ernie Lyons and others, who fought for this, who knew that this discharge out of here was going to kill this river. And they were fighting long before I got here. But when I grew up and I became a high school student, we met out here and started burying outboard motors and protesting the fact that we're discharging here, and that was back in 1970. So you all are here, and I don't care if you've moved here just yesterday or you lived here for 15, 20, 30 years like I have, but get involved and get active, and you're doing that by showing up here today and talking to some of these elected officials that are out here today. So I congratulate you for being here, just like Maggie said. You know, the thing I want to make is a real quick point. You know, we've got discharges going on right now. They've got more water coming in the lake than can go out. We've got over 4 billion gallons a day coming in from the Kissimmee and only about 1.6 billion gallons a day going out. But none of it's coming here because the lake elevation is lower than this canal elevation. And what they've been discharging recently is actually from our own watershed. But you know what? It's just like David Guest said. It's their responsibility for all of this water that's discharging artificially into this estuary. And we can't stand for that. We've got to stop those discharges, whether they're from Lake Okeechobee or the local watershed. And we got to lean on the responsibility is leaning directly upon the elected officials of our state and our nation. And in fact, both federal and state officials should be notified that we're coming after you, and we're coming after you hard to stop these discharges. Now, we can all do something, and we can all do something coming up real soon in November 4th, and that's called the election. And if you're not registered to vote, I understand Martin County Supervisor of Elections is hanging around waiting to register you to vote. And let's vote for the people that'll get in. But I want to talk about, there's a section in our Florida Constitution, the Florida Constitution, Article 2, Section 7, says natural resources. It shall be the policy of this state to conserve and protect its natural resources. Adequate provision shall be made by law for the abatement of water pollution, for the conservation and protection of Florida's natural resources. That's our Constitution of Florida. And I want to leave you with this, that every elected official, including our governor, who's now Governor Rick Scott, is responsible. He took an oath to defend this Constitution. They took an oath to defend these natural resources and stop this pollution that's coming in. And people, we need to get on that governor, because he appoints the 9 members of the Water Management District. He appoints the head of Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and he's so powerful, he influences the state legislature. So whether it's the governor or the state legislature, they have the power and the responsibility to protect our natural resources and stop this pollution, and tell the federal government, if they have to stop dumping it in our waterways. And send clean water south. Send it south. And let's vote yes on number one. Vote yes on 1 to get the land we need to restore the Everglades.
I love that guy. With all my heart. He's such a mentor. He's taught me so much, and he's shown me by example. We're talking health hazards. This is dirty water. One of our river warriors got a cut the other day, went to the beach and went swimming, and it got septic. He's now taking a massive antibiotic regime. He can't be in the sun. We're talking weeks out of commission. And he's not the only one. So our water throughout the state is dirty. We're having problems, and it is a health issue. This year, Martin Memorial stepped up and became a sponsor of this, and they gave us some validity here to discuss the dangers of this toxic water that's being dumped into our estuary and both sides of the state and putting the citizens and our lifestyles in danger. I'd like you very much to welcome the Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Martin Memorial Hospital Services, Mr. Rob Lord.
Good morning. On behalf of the 4,000 people that work at Martin Health System, I want to thank you all for being here today. Martin Health System, as you just heard, is a proud sponsor of this event. Now, we generally limit our involvement in these sorts of things to public health issues. You'll see us out there when you see events in our community that deal with cancer and heart disease and a variety of things that we face as great challenges in our community. But today, Martin Health System is represented by me to talk to you a little bit about the public health concerns that come out of this river. We believe the discharges into the St. Lucie River and the Indian River Lagoon and into the Atlantic Ocean are not only a threat to the ecology, not only a threat to the fish and the wildlife, but they threaten us.
Yes.
Now, I am not a scientist. We have plenty of people here a lot smarter than me to talk to you about the science. If I was better at math and science, I'd have been a doctor. But I can tell you, I'm a lifelong resident of this community. Joe Neeson and I have been friends since we were young teenagers. We won't tell those stories. But a lot of that time we spent along the Indian River. And the water was clean, and we had a great time. And then there would be releases. This is back into the 1960s, 1970s. I cannot comment on what causes illnesses because that's not my field, but you've just heard an example of a story. I can give you countless others of people who have come in contact with the water and had a sore, and it became worse, and it became infected, and we had difficulty treating it. We had horrible challenges at times trying to take care of members of our community, and we couldn't prove why, but we can show that they were in contact with the water in the river during times of discharges. I see people out here that have signs that say they fish. I fish, I vote out here. Fishermen over here. Anybody that fishes has pulled these fish out of the river and seen the sores and some of the challenges that we face there. Common sense should tell us that these discharges are not good for our health. 6 generations of my family have enjoyed the waters of this community. We've been here a long time. We've all enjoyed the beauty and the nature. And I cherish memories of my youth, times with friends like Joe Neeson, some of you here today on those rivers, and I want to get back to those times. But I and my entire circle of friends and all of the people I work with at Martin Health System are very, very worried about what our future holds if we do not stop it and stop it now.
Sound off. Thank you.
So again, on behalf of Martin Health System, on behalf of my family and my friends, thank you all for being here today. Keep up the good work. We will defeat this problem. Thank you.
There you go. Step up. Speaking of stepping up, We've got 30 or 40 Westies here today. Please, huh? How about the Westies? They came all the way across the state to join us today. Huh? Yeah. Now, those are some really, really hard-working folks over there. They just fought a fracking issue in the Florida Everglades, and they beat it. Dr. Karen Dwyer is here of the Stone Crab Alliance. Dr. Karen Dwyer holds 3 degrees from the University of Notre Dame, and her group, the Stone Crab Alliance, is currently working to stop the expansion of new oil drilling and fracking in Naples and the Everglades. Please welcome Dr. Karen Dwyer.
It's an honor to join so many water warriors. The Stone Crab Alliance has been working to save our waters and wetlands from new oil drilling. We support sending clean water south, but we also call for keeping that water clean as it flows through the Everglades by stopping new dirty drilling. We don't want big sugar or big oil or big phosphate polluting our waters. We're still celebrating a milestone victory on the West Coast. Dan A. Hughes has abandoned all plans to explore for oil in Southwest Florida. The Texas Oil Company terminated its 115,000-acre lease while the state revoked all its permits and filed a lawsuit for cleanup. This means 115,000 acres in the heart of the Everglades, some only 1,000 feet from family homes, has been saved from irresponsible drilling and fracking. Unfortunately, we are in the midst of an oil boom, with an additional 330,000 acres just leased for oil operations. So the fight for the Everglades and clean water escalates. For the record, oil drilling violates everything about clean water. Did you know that once the drilling permit is issued, industry can acid or hydraulically frack anytime, and they don't have to tell us. They don't even have to submit a new application because extreme extraction is unregulated in Florida. The oil industry can also use secret chemicals in undisclosed concentrations, and one well can use 11,000 gallons of chemicals, everything from benzene, a carcinogen, to hydrofluoric acid, a corrosive that eats bone, steel, and rock. Moreover, flowback can be radioactive and contain heavy metals that no amount of regulation can ever make safe. And finally, each well is permitted to permanently pollute 5 million gallons of water per month. And unlike agricultural water, the drilling water can never be reused. Given the worldwide water scarcity and the water shortages in Florida, it is criminal to destroy so much fresh water. Make no mistake, water is Florida's most valuable natural resource, fueling everything from agriculture to our multi-billion-dollar tourist industry. Protecting our waters will protect our jobs. Water, not oil, generates jobs in Florida. Our point is that this new type of extreme drilling that includes acid fracking could easily destroy our water-based economy and the entire 30-year Everglades restoration project. It is not safe, not here. Florida is still suffering from the worst oil disaster on record, the Gulf BP oil spill. We know accidents happen. Over time, pipes leak, injected fluids surface, and even cement casings fail. Because it only takes one incident to taint or even ruin an aquifer, Drilling is not in the public interest. You can't clean up an aquifer. If we add in climate change and sea level rise, the case is closed. No new drilling. To conclude, we're asking everyone to help save our waters by joining Stone Crab Alliance at Facebook, and 2, attending the March on the Governor's House by land and by sea, October 18th in Naples. This is the statewide One Water, One Florida event. So bring your troubled waters, bring your voices, bring your signs. We'll be marching and paddling along the beach to the governor's home, inviting everyone to partner with us in saving Florida's water, because it's all about the water.
It's really hot. I just would like everybody to know that we've got water and ice over here. If you need to hydrate, please take the time to go over there and get something cool to drink. There's soda, there's water, okay? So please don't get sick out here. This is important. Take care of yourself. Next, we have Dr. Juliette Jones. She is involved with the Friends of Warm Springs. They have won some significant victories, just like Dr. Karen Dwyer had. These are examples of small group of dedicated people actually making a difference. So, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Juliette Jones.
Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to see you all out here today. And I know what just even one of you can do to make a difference. Up until about 3 years ago, I really wasn't very aware of what was happening with our environment. It had to happen in my backyard to clue me in. And then I went all over the state and went to Chris Costello's Clean Water Movement. I joined, our group joined the Florida Springs Institute. But I'm not here to talk to you about being a member of any group today. I'm here strictly speaking as a private citizen. What we can do, first of all, remember, when we leave this rally, just continually talk about what you hear to everyone. Because the more we get this out to the public through social media, we hired, in our case, we hired a group that gave us email lists, and we sent messages all over. The Friends of Warm Mineral Springs, speaking of them as a group, they hired a good lawyer. A few people can get together and really make a difference. But you've got to be aware, you've got to be vigilant, and you really have to be committed. And the thing that I learned, I think, most deeply, before I retired, I was a hospice chaplain for 20 years. So I'm very familiar, I was very privileged to learn about sickness and death. We are part of the ecology. The physical part of us is water. We aren't separate from the environment. In a culture like Houston's, they understand that the environment is sacred. It's the source of life. It's the door to supernature. And we need to really apply ourselves, become more and more aware, educate ourselves, do something about it, be vigilant, and be vigilant. We can't, as Karen said, we cannot give up. You know, just because we have a victory, we had 3 political victories happen at Warm Mineral Springs. It appears as though, I'm cautiously optimistic, that a $35 million development was prevented at an ancient, sacred mortuary pond, currently publicly owned as a parkland, protected environmentally. They were going to put a $35 million development on it. And it's beyond belief to me that this could happen. And fortunately, the co-owners, the city council, stood up to that and said no. We weren't so sure that was going to happen, and now it appears as though they can buy it, and if they buy it, they vow to protect it. But this didn't happen just by sitting there. We had boots on the ground. And in closing, the thing that I want to tell you that's so important, when you have the truth on your side and you're committed to it and you won't let it go, there are forces that go into motion, cosmic forces, that we don't even know about yet. You know, you create a miracle yourself and be part of a group that's creating a miracle. You know that you don't even know who you are yet as a human being. You've got forces in you that can do things that can move this problem around. And it's starting to happen. And we don't know, maybe it can happen even faster than we thought it could. Water is sacred. Our water is sacred, just as life is sacred. So let's carry that message and let's tell it to everybody and get out and vote for the right people.
One of the most important things on the ballot this year is Amendment 1, our Land and Legacy Amendment. We need this in the worst way. We need to get this money restored to us and put into a fund that cannot be dipped into by the state legislatures. This needs to go to buy land to protect our waters. And to speak of this, we have Mr. Charles Baraqua of the Treasured Lands Foundation. Please give him a warm welcome.
Welcome to the dog days of summer. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank all of you for being here today and supporting my quality of life as well as yours. You know, it was rallies and protests and demonstrations, a lot like these, that were a huge part of the culture that I grew up with. The civil rights movement, world peace, Earth Day. How many of you remember Earth Day? A few years ago. Well, although that generation and those rallies and protests seem to be somewhat waning, a bit like my hairline, there is hope. There is a next generation, thanks to folks like Jackie Thurlow Lippisch and the River Kids. There is a new generation of young people who will carry the torch of change. But it wasn't just those rallies that promoted change. There was a voice much more powerful, one that our generation can still exercise, and that is your right to vote. This November, in 61 days, November 4th, Floridians will have that opportunity to effect change again for our environment. Amendment 1, the Water and Land Legacy Amendment, will restore funding for keeping drinking water clean, protect our rivers, our lakes, our springs, restore natural treasures like the Everglades, and protect our beaches and shores. It is not a new tax. It will cost you nothing. 1/3 of existing funds collected by the state through real estate transactions will go to protect natural resources, wildlife habitats, and preserve our water quality, raising $19 billion over 2 decades. Funds that historically our legislature has swiped. So this amendment will not allow them to do that, as they did with Florida Forever funding in 2009. Locally, it will help acquire the lands that are needed to protect the St. Lucie Estuary and the Indian River Lagoon. So my message is short. It's what Mark Perry said. Vote. Vote yes on Amendment 1 this November 4th. Thank you.
The next speaker is a very dear friend of mine, and she has helped organize and run the Martin County River Kids here. And in fact, her niece is one of the founders of that program. She's been writing a blog now for a couple months, and she's educated thousands of people. It's just a wonderful thing that she's doing. With all the information she ties into her mom's history, into our state's history, and applies it to today's stuff. So please help me welcome Jackie Thurlow Lipich.
Yay, Jackie!
Oh my gosh, it's hot! It is hot! Thank you for still being here. I am Jackie Thurlow Lipich on behalf of River Kids Today, a division of the Rivers Coalition, and I have one of my favorite River Kids here. She's going to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Veronica Dalton.
Last year, at this time, Veronica Dalton was asked to speak, and she spoke, put up your hand, girl. She spoke to 5,000 people. I think this is a kid who will grow up and change the world. What about you? You! All right, we're here today as River Kids because the river belongs to all kids. And we're going to share our mission statement with you. Veronica, you want to start? And then we'll have them repeat after us, because all people are kids too. We once were anyway.
River Kids is a division of the Rivers Coalition. Our mission is to speak out and get involved and raise awareness because we believe kids should have a voice in the future of our river.
Okay, we know it's hot, but we would like you to participate with us and speak on behalf of all of the kids all over the state of Florida. Please repeat after Veronica and me. Our mission is to speak out, get involved, and raise awareness. Because we believe kids should have a voice in the future of our river. Do it for the kids, people. Do it for the kids.
All right, we're going to hear from the West Coast again. Mr. John Scott is going to be here and talk to us. John is co-founder of the Clean Water Initiative of Florida. Along with his wife, Ruth, they founded this thing, and it's a clean water initiative. He's been active for many years, and he's very, very involved on the West Coast in the clean water issues, and he helped work on the fracking stuff. So please help me welcome Mr. John Scott from the West Coast.
Morning, Water Warriors! Sorry, I had to put my camera away. Are you ready for some clean water? I know I am. My name is John W. Scott, as Marty said, and I'm the co-founder of Clean Water Initiative of Florida, an advocacy group dedicated to preserving Florida's natural resources through public education, awareness, and policy change. The reason we're all here today is because our waterways and ecosystems and all that rely upon them are under attack. The Caloosahatchee River on the west coast and the St. Lucie River and Indian River Lagoon on the east coast have been devastated by polluted discharges from Lake O up to 6 billion gallons per day, causing historic mortality events for all types of marine life. In 2013, we set a record. Not a good one. 830 manatee deaths, the most since record keeping began in the Indian River Lagoon. 80 dolphins died. Something is not right with this picture. This is not the way it's supposed to be. We all know it, including polluters and special interests that decided long ago to forsake Lake O and the Everglades for profits and progress. But what we've witnessed in this state for decades is anything but responsible. In fact, it's criminal. Privatized profits and socialized cleanup is not fair to our natural resources or to the taxpayers of the state. Billions of dollars in proposed solutions are on the table that won't come close to resolving our discharge problems, and they're hailed as true leadership. But we've had a viable solution for decades. It's called sending the water south. Yet after all these years, we still haven't been able to make it happen, mostly due to politics, money, and misinformation. So how do we go about sending the water south?
Step 1, kick Big Sugar Rick Scott to the curb. We need a governor we can work with. Despite a purchase agreement between the state and the sugar industry, he has continually obstructed the acquisition of approximately 50,000 acres of Everglades agricultural land south of the lake that we must acquire. We must acquire in order to restore the natural flow of water south from Lake O to the Everglades. Water that historically overflowed the banks of Lake Okeechobee during rainy season would meander gently to the Everglades and Florida Bay. The river of grass that once connected Lake O to the Everglades supported a thriving ecosystem, but the development of the Everglades agricultural area south of the lake severed this natural hydrological connection, resulting in severe degradation of water quality and quantity flowing into the Everglades. The only way to restore this critical connection and begin the healing process is by sending the water south. A flowway in the Everglades agricultural area will ensure balance between sustainable resources, agriculture, and the long-term health of our environment, economy, and quality of life. No longer would Everglades restoration simply be words on a sheet of paper. This flowway I speak of is more commonly known as Plan 6. You've already heard about it today, which is not only feasible, but contrary to false rumors, it cannot send dirty water south due to legally mandated water quality standards in the Everglades. So the problem doesn't shift from one place to another as some have rumored. It just goes away, or mostly goes away, and other solutions will take up the slack. Plan 6, combined with existing storage and infrastructure, will provide total relief from polluted Lake O discharges wreaking havoc on our east and west coast estuaries, costing only a fraction of the $16 billion Central Everglades Restoration Project, which is still 30 years from completion. The only thing standing in the way of a Plan 6 flowway to send the water south is political obstruction. So, in conclusion, we must keep relentless pressure on local, state, and federal officials to do their job and protect our natural resources. We must remember in November and vote for leaders who will lead on water problems. Thank you very much. Follow us on Facebook, Clean Water Initiative of Florida, or our website. And thank you for coming out and showing your passion for Florida's water. Together we can send the water south.
What do we want? Clean water. When do we want it? Now. Right on. Power to the people with no delay. I'd like to give a shout out to the East Coast for holding this event. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. I'd like to give a quick shout out to the West Coast for showing up as well. Give a shout out to them. I'm going to be real quick about things here because we want to proceed quicker. Yes, most of my heroes do not appear on any stamps, as a matter of fact. My heroes are here today. People that have already spoke, like Dr. Karen Dwyer, who has taken on David versus Goliath and shown us that we can, as small concerned citizens from the West, take down oil companies like them. We are proving that small, unified crowds of people can make actual change. We might be small from the West, but we are mighty, and we are united with the East for one common goal: to send the water south.
Yes!
What's the fix? What's the fix? What do we want? When do we want it? People like Mr. Green Guy who just spoke, John Scott and his wife Ruth, heroes of mine who have been on the front lines of not only Lake Okeechobee battle, but the fracking battle. We've had our hands full in the West. I'd like to give a shout out to them because they are personal heroes of mine. Let's give them a round of applause. One more shout out, Juliet Jones from the West, who again showed us small individual efforts by small individual groups can make a difference. And we'd like to give her a shout out real quick. I'd also like to quickly thank all the politicians from the East and West Coast being here today. We look forward to you leading the march with us. We are working with you, not against you. We're all for the common good, and that is sending the water south. Thank you very much.
Sometimes big power comes in little packages. We have a young lady today, little Hannah Louie. I call her Hurricane Hannah because she's just a ball of energy. She's a river kid, and she's here to speak to us. Her and her brother Aiden worked on this themselves. So please welcome Hannah Louie, River Kid.
Lucy River Kid. Today, I'm here today to ask all you kids in Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River County to help save our river. It needs our help now. We saw it last year and we're seeing it all again this year. The dirty, yucky, brown, smelly, dangerous water. I'm here with my older brother, Aiden, and we're calling out to all the kids today to help save our river. One thing to know, this is our home, our river, our ocean, and our lagoon. We deserve to play in it, and more importantly, we deserve having a chance to enjoy it when we're adults. Us kids can do it a lot for the lagoon. I have wrote the president, drew pictures, and sent them to politicians. I have done my part and picked up trash when I saw it on the ground. Us kids always do our part. It's time for us adults, for some adults to do theirs. They need to know us kids are angry and sad. We feel too, and many of us cried a lot. To those listening, please help the sick and dying animals. You will never know how much joy seeing them bring us kids. We want clean water once and for all. We all deserve clean water once and for all. Thank you.
That just brings a big smile to my face. You know, her brother, her older brother, has already said it. He wants to be the next Indian River Keeper.
And he will.
I pray I live long enough to hand him the keys. I really do. Speaking of Indian River Keeper, my program was started about 13, 14 years ago by Kevin Stinnett and a group of very interested stakeholders along Indian River Lagoon. Charles Grande, who is also here today, was part of that group. He was part of the founding of my program. And of course, I'm the third in the line. We have George Jones, who's here today with his wife Diane, and we have Kevin here with Marilyn. So our next speaker is going to be Mr. Kevin Stinnett, my board president and our first Indian River Keeper.
It is a tremendous pleasure to be here, and I am really excited to see this degree of enthusiasm and determination in people of our area. Now, we've seen this when they're dumping the lake. We've seen this when they close down our waters and it gets really bad. But it is a vital and important statement to make that even in a year when we're only draining our own basin, people will come out and demand action, demand clear water. Okay? Now, I also want to say there's another founder, Mr. Roger Sharp, one of the other founders of Indian River Keeper, is here. And what Indian River Keeper was about from the start was bringing together homeowners, environmentalists, conservationists, and anglers, and combining the power of those groups who don't always talk well together, was really vital to this. So we applied to Waterkeeper Alliance, Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s global organization of people fighting for the water, to have a charter in our area, governed by a board of directors of people who know what's going on here, to hire a river keeper, which now is Marty Baum. Now, I would like to have invited Bobby Kennedy Jr. here to speak. No one speaks truth to power the way Bobby Kennedy Jr. does. And I love his quote, show me a polluter and I'll show you a subsidy. And nowhere is that more true than with Big Sugar in Florida. Unfortunately, my wife reminded me that he was getting married yesterday, and I said, but he's very dedicated. But she talked me out of even asking. So we're here, and I want to talk briefly about the many things that are going on that are positive for our watersheds, and some of which divert attention from the goal. We can't take our eyes off the ball, and that's sending water south. You'll hear people talking about urgent and necessary projects, like cleaning up the water from our own watersheds with the C44, C23, and C24 reservoirs, those of which were completely bypassed after having been approved by WRDA. Okay, they're all important. But in too many instances, our politicians, in an effort to divert attention away from what Big Sugar does to our water, throws money at the problem. Okay. David Guest, who I hold in tremendous esteem, said the Clean Water Act says you keep your water until it's clean enough to distribute. Big Sugar doesn't do that. Big Ag doesn't do that. Their out is that they're not industries. Tell me Big Sugar's not an industry, okay? They use best management practices, and even in the best management practices, retention of their water is a key element that they don't follow, okay? We have laws on the books to enforce clean water. There was an article in the paper the other day where a congressman wants to toughen the penalties for polluters. The Clean Water Act says $27,500 per day per instance. If they have 2 pipes going into the water, each one is an instance. Every day they should be fined that. Florida has never levied those fines in its administration of the Clean Water Act. Okay, we must enforce the laws as they're written. Now, perseverance, dedication is going to be vital. Next year, we may have a drought. Next year, the water may be crystal clear and beautiful. And you may hear politicians saying, look what we've done. Okay, it's not enough, because in 3 or 4 or 5 years, we're gonna get hammered again. None of the projects, even the urgent projects like Kissimmee River restoration, like the SEP even, they're not gonna stop the discharges. We need to clean the water and send it south. The Everglades needs it. And we have an option to get that sugar land. In the meantime, there is a fix on the books that needs to be enforced. Big Sugar, U.S. Sugar, the Fanhools, Florida Crystals, all of them have permits to take your water and pump it off their land into your canals. Those permits say if human health and safety is in jeopardy, these permits can be suspended. Okay? We can stack water on Big Sugar property. And it doesn't have to be every year. It doesn't have to be all year in the flood years when they're going to affect your health and safety. They can go to Big Sugar and say, look, turn your pumps off for a little while. Let's let the water back up. The water they would fill the canals with to go south into our water treatment areas, okay, would stay on their property and we could put lake water in it. Lake water's cleaner than their water. All these things are possible, but it takes tremendous public will. It takes you staying engaged. It takes you communicating with your legislators and your representatives and your neighbors to get people involved and show the political will. Okay? I want to thank Marty for what he's done. I want to encourage all of you to join Indian River Keeper. It is a member organization. It bugs me no end that Marty gets up here and doesn't remind people of that. We all love Marty. Why wouldn't we want to be members and keep him engaged? So again, go to your neighbors, tell them that we need to stay engaged, that we can do something about it. We can send water south. There are urgent long-term projects like whatever Plan 6 will eventually become. I mean, it's kind of amorphous now. It needs to clean water. But meanwhile, there is something they can do that will protect our children, that will protect our environment. And it takes people demanding clean water. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Tara Barty. She's Senior Scientist and Director of Education for the Arthur Marshall Foundation. This is a very important foundation. They do great work. They've been involved with trying to send water south for about 25 or 30 years. It's a remarkable effort. So please help me welcome Tara Barty.
Hi guys, like Marty said, I'm Tara Barty from the Marshall Foundation for the Everglades. I'm one of the scientists that they warned you about coming up here. I'm not gonna make you do any math, and I don't really know what to do with myself without PowerPoint and graphs behind me. So basically what we do is Everglades restoration, and we teach children and the public to love the Everglades. Because as human beings, we're hardwired to protect what we love. So if we can do that, we've gone an exponential way. So all of us share the water in this very complicated watershed, from the chain of lakes to the Kissimmee River to Lake Okeechobee, into the remnant Everglades, and down to Florida Bay. We've connected all the dots. We know what we need to do. Now we need to connect all the spots in our beautiful and unique ecosystem. So we need to restore the natural flow of water south to the greatest extent possible, fix the dike, send it all south, pay for it, and do it.
I love you. It don't hurt that she's smoking hot.
Oh, that was a blonde moment. Our next speaker is Kelsey Jennings. She's a staff biologist to Save the Manatees. Of course, as most of us are aware, we've lost a whole bunch of manatees this last year on both coasts. They lost 120 or something on the West Coast, and we've lost 50, 60 of them here. There's no real good reason for them to be dying, except the water is polluted, and we need to clean it up. So please help me welcome Kelsey Jennings.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Jennings, and I'm the staff biologist at Save the Manatee Club. SMC has been working to protect manatees and their habitat for over 30 years. We're all here today with our concerns for the health of the lagoon, and I'm no different. Last year was the worst year on record for manatee mortality, bringing in 830 deaths. Many of these deaths were brought on by environmental stressors, such as the red tide on the West Coast and the unusual mortality event in the northern Indian River Lagoon. To me, the record number of deaths serves as the symbol of the failing aquatic ecosystems throughout the state. While none of these mortalities have been directly linked to the discharges from Lake Okeechobee, it is clear that the southern Indian River Lagoon is in peril. We should not have to wait until the situation gets to the point that it has in the northern Indian River Lagoon before action is taken. They waited too long to deal with the ecosystem damage in the north, and there have been hundreds of animals dying from unknown causes, including manatees, dolphins, and pelicans. The discharges here are causing fluctuations in salinities, which can kill the seagrasses and other aquatic vegetation, impacting manatees' major food source. The time to fix this issue is now, not years down the road when the damage is possibly irreversible. It is clear that these discharges are disrupting the natural system in the southern IRL, and the longer they're allowed to continue, the greater the risk the ecosystem faces of collapsing entirely. Put an end to the discharges from Lake Okeechobee. It's the clear solution here, as they are only benefit to a small group, whereas the environment, animals, and local citizens are forced to suffer. Let's protect the environment for manatees, ourselves, and future generations. Thank you.
Next, we have Stacy Lee Sherwood, who's a sea turtle expert and an advocate for clean water, and she helps rescue and heal sick sea turtles. You know, the Indian River Lagoon is a nursery for small turtles, and of course our green sea turtles sometimes spend their entire life in our lagoon because they're vegetarians. So clean water in our lagoon is an important thing. Last year, when I was getting ready to go on an oyster deployment with Congressman Murphy, who's joined us over here, I found a dead sea turtle, a mature dead green sea turtle, in the lagoon, in the channel, right across from the sailing center. And there was no prop marks or anything, so it probably died of biologic reasons. So please help me welcome Stacy Lee Sherwood.
Good morning, River Warriors. Thank you all for coming. I know it's really hot, so I will be brief. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Stacy Lee Sherwood, and I do rescue and work with sea turtles, among other animals. I'm here today to give my voice to them and all the marine animals that call the Indian River Lagoon home. Now, many people don't know how important the lagoon is, as Marty had mentioned, to our endangered sea turtles. And for many of these young green sea turtles who swim and feed in the lagoon, it's very important to them. I first learned of the lagoon and how toxic it was 4 years ago during the coal stunning event of 2010, when we had hundreds of green sea turtles wash up nearly frozen. But it was actually a blessing in disguise. Many of these green sea turtles had fibropapilloma tumors. It's a deadly toxic disease. They get it from exposure to chemicals being dumped in the lagoon and all of our waterways. Because the green sea turtle hangs around people more than any other species until they reach maturity at 20 years, they have 20 years worth of exposure to this. That's a long time. No wonder so many of them are in trouble and sick. I spent several months working in a rehab center in Boca taking care of them. So I know firsthand how toxic this water is. I've seen the pictures of the people. I've seen all the dead manatees. It's time we do something. Now, before we send the water south, we must stop all the dumping in the lagoon, regardless of where it comes from. Otherwise, we will continue to pollute the lagoon and then send dirty water south. So after we stop the dumping, then we need to send the water south. If we don't fix the problem now, we never will. We don't need any more excuses from anyone. We need to fix it now, not next year. We don't need to wait for an election year. We don't need any more studies. We want work now. Our sea turtles, manatees, dolphins, fish, and people cannot wait any longer. The marine life are getting sick. The people are getting sick. And most of it goes unreported. I just learned that NOAA, of all things, does an annual release of juvenile loggerheads into the lagoon, which is insane. I guess they don't know how toxic it is. Maybe they should be here and learn something. In closing, I just want to say to all of our elected officials and government employees, you work for us, not the other way around. So I want to hear all of you say that. You work for us. You work for us. Not the other way around. Not the other way around. Stop all the dumping. Stop all the dumping. And send the water south. And send the water south. Thank you.
Clean it up, send it south. Plan 6.
Okay, next is a surfer, a former pro surfer who's now serving in the United States Coast Guard. So Please give him props for that. The Coasties are an important part of our life. If nothing else should bring attention to just how bad things are, just remember my story at the beginning about Steve Case, who now has an out-of-control bacterial infection in his leg from a tiny little cut that got immersed in what looked to be crystal clear, clean seawater. And of course, all of our surfers are in that all the time. And when you see the crystal clear water, you assume that it is okay to be in it. But as we have learned, that is not the case. Water in the entire state is being polluted, and it's being made too toxic for us to play in. So please, I would like you to help me welcome Mr. Jonathan Flick, pro surfer, United States Coast Guard.
Testing for clean water. Testing. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I've been gone for about 12 years, and I just love coming home. This place is so beautiful, and what's going on right now, this is awesome. That's horrible, but this right here is awesome. My wife and I were driving down from the Outer Banks last night, and we had the same issues up there, but the difference up there, no one's doing anything. Down here, you guys are actually doing something. This is so freaking cool. I cannot believe it. All these people coming out, all my friends that I'm seeing, they're all here. This is unbelievable. I'm gonna go back up there and I'm gonna be like, you guys gotta stop complaining about our issues. You guys aren't doing anything. Look down there in South Florida. They're actually doing something about it. And they're making a change. And that's insane to me. Thank you guys. Don't thank me, thank you guys. River kids. Look at these little munchkins. Yeah! These little guys are awesome. Making a change. That's what we're talking about. Another thing, I was coming down and this is what kind of bummed me out. I was like, been stuck in the car for 12 hours. All I wanted to do was just get out and surf. But then I looked over, I was like, can you even surf down there anymore? It's like, no, this is not happening. And then to find out all the deaths with the manatee and dolphins, and that just really, I'm really passionate about this kind of stuff, and it really fires me up. But what I'm getting more fired up about, one more time, is you guys and everyone doing something about it. This is great. Thank you, guys.
Okay, don't forget, we've got plenty of water, ice water. I'd like to thank Brandon Cannon. Day before yesterday, he stepped up and donated $500 to make sure that we could all stay hydrated. So, thank you to him. I'm sorry. AJ's picture fell, and it's twice. This is bad. All right. We're fed up. Completely and totally fed up. We need our leaders to lead. We changed the whole game last year. 1 year ago today, we changed the game. We're paying attention. Our politicians are starting to listen to us. We hope that they will continue listening to us. And we would like them to lead us here in just a minute or two on a symbolic march to the locks to protest the dumping that is sure to come. That it's not happening now doesn't keep us immune from the discharges. State policy is that we're going to get it. And I'd like to thank all of our elected officials that have come. Let me get my list. I know it. And please forgive me if I miss anybody. You didn't get up here and say something. Congressman Patrick Murphy is here. Senator Joe Negron is here. Ann Scott, Martin County Commissioner, Mayor Troy McDonald, Martin County Commissioner John Haddock, Kelly Glass-Leeton, City of Stewart Commissioner, Eula Clark, City of Stewart Commissioner, Chris Sadowski, Commissioner, St. Lucie County. And if there's anybody that I missed, please accept my apologies. When Christy gets done chanting us up and getting us riled up, I'd like them to please assemble over here and lead all of us in a symbolic march to the locks. And thank them very, very much for coming and offering us the opportunity to speak to them and have them listen to our problems and our needs and give them an opportunity to tell us how they intend to help us. So, thank you very, very much. Our next speaker is Chris Costello, Florida Sierra. This lady is one of the most organizing geniuses I've ever been around, and I just love her dearly. So, please help me welcome Chris Costello.
Hey, Chris!
by shouting loud enough to let Tallahassee and everyone who's there hear us. So join with me. Hey, hey! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Ho, ho! Slimy water has got to go! Hey, hey! Just want to bring you a message from the rest of the state. I have the fortune and the misfortune to see all of the water quality problems from the Panhandle down to the Keys, and I'm here to tell you that you are in very good company. You are in good, horribly, devastatingly good company. That means that the estuaries, the Lake Okeechobee, the St. Lucie and the Caloosahatchee estuaries are not the only portions of the state that are having serious water quality problems. There is no section of the state that is not suffering from fertilizer, sewage, and manure pollution. They are the three bad guys. Whether it is fertilizer in your yard or in the ag fields, whether it's sewage from your septic tank or your ineffective wastewater treatment facility, whether it's your dog poop or cattle manure, that's what's feeding the problem. I could spend all day listing the water bodies around the state that are having the same problems you are, from the North Florida Springs, Manatee Spring, Wekiva, Rock, Silver, Wakulla, the list goes on and on, the St. Johns River, the Ocklawaha River, the Silver River, the Florida Keys, Florida Bay. We're all in the same boat, and today is about building public demand for clean water. What do we want? Clean water! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Clean water! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Clean water! When do we want it? Now! Is everybody ready to march to the locks and tell the powers of the be what we want and when we want it? Let's
They're fabulous.
Where's Scott where we want him? Governor Scott, we're out.